The following match is the second semifinal in the 2016 Magic World Championship. Introducing first, the number 3 seed from Cambridge, Massachusetts in the United States, Oliver Tiu. And his opponent, the number 2 seed from Lisbon, Portugal, Márcio Carvalho.
Hello and welcome to coverage of the Magic World Championship. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Matej Zadelkai. You hear the players greeting each other as we sit down for our second semifinal match. The first one saw Brian Brown-Duin advance to the finals over Shota Yasuoka. And this one will decide who gets to play him in the finals, Matej, giving $70,000 to the winner. And of course, that title of world champion, which just has a ring to it that no other tournament does.
Yeah, and it's instant platinum, something that BBD and Márcio Carvalho are looking for, because they both came in with only gold level status as the only players in the World Championships. And it might be the face-off between Márcio and BBD if Márcio gets past the prodigy, Oliver Tiu.
That's right. He's only 18 years old from the United States. Márcio, a longtime Magic player, he is from Portugal, and he's kicking things off with his Bant Company deck here in Standard with a Duskwatch Recruiter. On Oliver's side, he's playing what we're calling Turbo Emrakul. He started things off with a Vassal of Nascency. What is the game plan for Oliver?
The game plan is to get Emrakul into play as soon as possible, using ramping and putting cards in your graveyard to make it cheaper. So ideally aiming for turn 6 or 7, maybe using Kozilek's return trigger to sweep the board while on the way, things like that.
Bant Company, it's a deck that we are familiar with. If you watch a lot of Standard or a lot of professional level Magic, you'll certainly be well familiarized with Bant Company, but maybe give us the highlights here on Márcio's build.
Yeah, he has a very interesting build that is a little lower on the creatures, but it's still a lot of value guys that you've seen around: Sylvan Advocates, Duskwatch Recruiters, Reflector Mages, as you see Márcio just playing that Reflector Mage bouncing a Primal Druid, and he's getting the most value out of his collected companies, but he has some spicy ones in his deck. He has Avacyn, he has an Elder Deep Fiend of his own. He has 2 actually.
Wow,
so
okay.
I think those might play a huge part as Oliver is ramping up with his Nissus Pilgrimage.
Yeah, he's going to play Nissus Pilgrimage. Remember, he cannot play that Primal Druid again. Plus, this is just a better use of his mana anyway. And he's going to start getting those lands on the battlefield. But what a curve here for Carvalho. He goes with the old 2-3-4 right into Tamiyo Field Researcher, and he's going to generate a lot of card advantage here using Tamiyo's plus ability.
Exactly. Usually we see Tamiyo being used as a tempo play, using the mana to tap 2 creatures, but no creatures on Oliver's side of the board. So Tamiyo just takes up, draws Márcio 2 cards. This is a great spot for him. Yeah, I mean, Tamiyo is just a one-of. It's another one of those spicy ones that in Márcio's deck that he cut some spells. He's only down to 1 Dromoka's Command compared to other versions which are running 3 and 4. And he found the spot for Tamiyo.
You mentioned Kozilek's return a little bit earlier. I suspect that will be an important interaction and card in the matchup.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Haven't seen one yet though.
No, and if you look at Oliver's hand, it's fairly decent, but Márcio is putting on a lot of pressure with his creatures and drawing a lot of cards as well, which means that with those cards in hand, Márcio can keep up the pressure turn after turn, and Oliver has to scrap around to basically get to the point that he can either play Emrakul or swipe the board clear with a Kozilek's return. That might take a while though, as he's looking to pop a Vessel of Nascency here.
Facing significant pressure here, both by cards in hand from Márcio and the board state, which has 4 power on it currently.
Oh, it looks like the players can hear us even through the headset.
I actually did want to take a second to explain why we have the headphones on the players. It is designed to keep our voice out of their head. Now, you do hear one of the players mention that they could hear a little bit of something from you and I, Matej. So We'll lower our voices a little bit and see if that helps, and they'll make some adjustments on the technical side to make sure that the players can't hear us.
What is it that you guys can hear? They can hear it. But is it they can hear it here or they can hear it in their ears? They can hear it in their ears, but they're picking up back.
Gather the pack now for Oliver Tiu.
Yep.
Yeah, finds Anissa.
And just while we get this sorted out to make sure that the players can't hear us, we're just going to be talking about the cards on the battlefield for a moment here rather than the cards in their hand. I just want to make sure that everything's on the up and up as far as the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Oliver fetching a forest with his Nissa, developing his board a little further. He's still at a healthy 14 life total as Márcio was beating down, but his creatures only have 2 power for the moment.
That's right.
And having Tamio on the battlefield actually quite relevant for any possible future turns as well. It can deal nicely with an Emrakul.
Yeah,
in a
just
pinch.
slap it out of the way for a turn or two. Yeah, that's one of the few ways.
Yep. Let's see what Márcio can do here. We're not going to talk about exactly what his cards are here, but his creatures are on the board are already decently sized. He has the Tamio as well. 4 lands in play, which is the best point to be at because it means you can cast your collected companies or play 2 power creatures in one turn, or maybe a creature and a cheap spell as well. So let's see how Márcio develops his board further, if he does.
Looks like he is going to cast something, meaning he's not passing the turn with that scary 4 mana up from Oliver's perspective. So it's going to be a tireless tracker from Carvalho. He's going to play a land and make a clue as well. And it looks like he's got a follow-up play. He's going to go for Dromoka's command to take down Nissa with a fight and clear the way for 5 damage. And 2 more drawn cards off of Tamio's plus ability. And you can see that Tamio really having a profound impact on this game.
Oh yeah, it's enabled Márcio to already draw 4 extra cards.
4 cards!
Yeah,
I'm interested.
I'm sure you'll have value. And look at that, Oliver is already down to 9.
Yeah.
And potentially facing lethal next turn because remember that Talus Tracker can grow quite fast with the clues that it is producing. So Oliver has to do something here. He's only on 6 lands, still quite a few ways away from that Emrakul that his deck is so geared towards playing.
Yeah, this could be a quick one potentially. We really do have a scenario here where Oliver's facing lethal damage from Márcio Carvalho, has nothing relevant on the board yet, and needs to find a way to stabilize this. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, he can definitely put up a creature in the Primal Druid that was bounced earlier with a Reflector Mage. That one we know about, but we also know that Márcio does have Tamio in play.
That's right.
So creatures might not be good here.
All right, it looks like Oliver's decided he must sacrifice this Vessel of Nascency and see what he can find with it.
Ishkana would have been a fantastic card.
Yeah, he does have a land drop to give here, but unfortunately it still leaves him short of the 5 mana needed for an Ishkana Graph Widow. No, he does take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the best card that was there.
He still needs more action here, though. Some way to block, some way to interact. And he had that Primal Druid from earlier in the game. Márcio will have known about that. The question is, can Márcio kill him from here? He's going to need to get that Druid out of the way if he wants to kill him. And it looks like he's got the win on the table here to me.
Oh,
just tap that thing down, sacrifice a clue, play a land, sacrifice a clue.
Oliver has 2 mana up, but both players know each other's deck lists, and I'm sure they know them by heart at this point. They had a whole night to figure out this particular matchup. So there's the minus from the Tamio, tapping down the Primal Druid.
Yeah, he's going to attack. He's already played a land to get the clue. He's going to sacrifice the clue, and that's lethal. Márcio Carvalho takes a quick game 1 from Oliver Tiu, really punishing Oliver for those cards that don't affect the boards directly. We'll be back right after these messages.
Up your game with Ultra Pro Magic the Gathering accessories. Find the best Magic art on card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and more. Visit ultrapro.com to learn more and find a retailer near you.
You're invited to play with the new cards from Kaladesh early. Pre-release events are happening near you on September 24th and 25th. Contact your favorite game store and secure your spot today.
Hello there, and welcome back to the feature match area here at the historic Paramount Theater. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Matej Zadelkai, and we are pleased to bring you our semifinal number 2 of the Magic World Championships here.
Kind of like their voices a little bit.
Yeah, I hear some words in the voices, but I can't.
Players are talking about wearing the headsets, and I saw some of you in the chat had asked about why are they wearing headsets, right? This isn't a video game or whatever. And the reason is that we have a crowd out in the stands, and they're listening to you and I, Matej, and we don't want that sound to bleed over into the players because we do talk about strategic elements of the game that could affect the gameplay potentially, and that's why they're wearing the headsets. I can tell you that the location here is one of the absolute most gorgeous places that we've ever held a Magic tournament. It is stunning down on the show floor there. We should try to get a draft down there or something.
Yeah, we should.
I would love, it's just one of the most absolutely beautifully lit, decorated, open areas that you can possibly imagine playing. Of course, that's what everybody's playing for here. That is your trophy for the world champion. If you get to see the bottom of it, you can see all the names of the previous world champions. See in the one behind there, and you get a little placard with your name on that, and that never goes anywhere. It's a pretty special thing.
It's your legacy.
Yeah. Now you do also win something that probably does end up going somewhere. You get $70,000 for taking first place here at the World Championship, which is a huge deal.
Yeah, of course, especially imagine being Oliver Tiu, 18 years old. Just getting platinum, not only that, but also winning $70,000. That goes nicely towards your education.
I just paid for college.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so in game 1, Márcio really punished Oliver for being on the play and curving out perfectly with a 2-3 and a very good 4, just keeping the cards up. Now it's Oliver on the play, and we might see the other side of the coin here, where Oliver has that good curve of ramping spells and finding that Ishkan Graph Widow to stall the board, and then going for that big Emrakul.
All right, we are ready for game number 2 here. Oliver Tiu from the United States finds himself down 1 game to Márcio Carvalho. I will also remind you, we're playing at best 3 out of 5 here. This is not a best 2 out of 3 match, and therefore this game is not a sideboarded game. This is the same opening decks that we saw in the previous game. Every game that's played after this will be sideboarded.
Yeah, sideboards might be very relevant, but I think we'll get to that. And Oliver has a much better start here with a turn 2, Jace Vryn's Prodigy, and his hand is not that bad. He also has an Issa's Pilgrimage, which will really help him, get not only more lands into play, but more cards in hand to discard to the Jace.
Yeah, that's a nice combo, especially later ones. All right, here's a Noose Constrictor for Márcio Carvalho. You mentioned he had a few spicy cards in the list, and there's another one that you don't always see.
Yeah, like it. It's very versatile, quite good against Fevered Visions, even though we didn't see that deck pop up at Worlds. But it's a 2-mana 2/2 with an upside, can block Spell Quillers all day long, and can even finish off the games fast. We saw last game, Tamiyo giving him cards. If he had a Noose Constrictor, that could have gone all the way by its own.
Yeah. The noose is loose.
Oh, indeed.
Let's see what it can do this game for Márcio. Oliver is going to play a Jace.
And this is Pilgrimage.
And then this is Pilgrimage, excuse me.
It looks like he's already working his way towards that Elder Deepfin and Emrakul that he has in his hand.
We see a lot more of the turbo side of the equation here from Oliver rather than game 1, where he didn't really end up getting much going on at all.
No, he was just a little bit too far behind that. Reflector Mage bouncing Primate Druid on turn 3 proved actually key. And Oliver then wasn't able to play something like a Wretchgrave on turn 4, just really putting him behind and just finding cards but not really getting anywhere.
All right, and a tireless tracker. Another solid curve here from Márcio Carvalho. For Oliver Tiu, him as well, though. He went Jason and Nissa's Pilgrimage. Very, very good start for him. So he's going to be hitting land drops. He's going to be ahead on mana. He's going to have some card selection. He finds a nice one off the top there.
I think it looks like Oliver just drew another Emrakul. He already has one in his hand, so that's not the greatest. So he's using the Jace to really dig. But he's not able to do much here. He discards another forest.
How many cards? 5.
He has 5 cards and 5 open mana. Oliver too has to be careful.
I'll keep.
Both players have an Elder Deep Fiend in their hands.
We've seen that can get a little complicated down the stretch if it comes to that. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah, for those who haven't seen the match, I definitely recommend going into the archive to find the end of day 1 coverage, the standard portion, where Oliver's match against Steve Rubin really went down to the wire. Steve only ending the game with 2 cards in his library. It was just very long and very complicated. Now Márcio, what can he muster up here?
That is the question. He's taking a look at his hand here and trying to plan out what it is he wants to do. Why don't we take a look at Márcio's hand?
Yeah, look at so many spells, but I don't see a 4th land, though.
Okay.
That's a problem. Yeah, his double Recruiter, which he can play, it looks like he's lacking a white mana source for that Selfless Spirit, and he can't even cast that Collected Company in his hand. So he's going to go for a Sylvan Advocate. And this is good news for Oliver. He's going to get one more turn of that Jace activation without being really at a big threat of falling behind that much.
Mm-hmm.
And if Oliver would draw something like Kozilek's Return, it would actually be quite nice because Márcio doesn't have the 4th land for that clue to pump up his Tireless Tracker, so he could actually get at least that off the table if he were to draw a Kozilek's Return. Márcio thinking.
He is thinking.
I assume he is going to attack with his 2 creatures, but maybe he's already thinking about discarding cards to the News Constructor. We'll see.
He's jamming.
And I'm sure that is what he's thinking about. He has just a lot of spells to play, but he's going to let the resolve.
Yeah, it looks like damage is going to happen there.
Yeah.
Oliver's just going to take 5, drop down to 13, and draw his card for the turn. He finds another Nissa's Pilgrimage.
All right, so
moving forward.
I mean, he could be getting somewhere. He could play Nissa's Pilgrimage first, find a forest, find 2-1, put 1 in play, 1 in his hand, then maybe flip Jace. He could also flashback the Pilgrimage right away. And that would really ramp up his mana, but it would leave his Jace vulnerable to the board. But if that makes him really close to casting the Emrakul, which I don't actually think it is, that could be a valid plan. But unfortunately, he only has lands and sorceries in his graveyard.
Just 2 types right now.
Yeah, so Emrakul still costs 11 mana, which even with 2 Pilgrimages, he wouldn't get there.
Oliver mapping out what he wants to do this turn and probably the next turn as well. Looks like he's going to lead with that Pilgrimage. Yeah,
look at that. He went back, was careful, didn't tap his Shivan Reef because he can still draw the Kozilek's Return that we talked about with the Jace.
Right. Kozilek's Return would be decent here. It would kill a Tireless Tracker. Probably prompt a discard for the News Constrictor.
That would actually be a decent play, especially with Márcio not having the 4th land to really capitalize.
Yeah, he'd take it if he could find it, though it is going to be tough for him too, as he's just going to get to see the 1 extra card with Jace. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, but on the other hand, he's getting real close to actually hard casting that Elder Deep in the following turn. He's on 6 lands. I don't think he has played land for his turn.
He also has a Shrine of the Forsaken Gods in his hand, which will jump him a land drop.
Yeah, that's going to help getting towards Emrakul for sure.
Indeed.
Now, basically, Oliver's just thinking, do I want to tap Jace here, draw my card, maybe finding Kozilek's Return, then being able to use the Jace Plus ability? The other options would be to leave that Jace on the defensive and block with it, and then transform it into the Planeswalker Jace.
Yeah, Telepath Unbound. And if he's able to do that, then he could keep his Jace around while soaking up some amount of damage, which we've seen happen time and time again in Standard, though. The window could close for that Kozilek's return to be great if he were to find it. And it looks like he's decided to take the slightly safer play here of not digging and taking less damage on this attack, most likely.
Yep.
Ooh, land off the top for Márcio Carvalho.
And a good one at that. A Plains, exactly the color of mana that he was missing. That means that Márcio can now deploy his Self of Spirit, meaning that he can get protection from that Kozilek's return. Of course, we haven't seen one, but if Oliver were to draw one, he would certainly wouldn't mind using that in tandem with that Elder Deep Fiend that he has. And Self of Spirit can just prevent that by sacrificing itself.
Okay, attack phase for Carvalho, who ships every creature he's got into the red zone after playing that land.
Oliver has to be careful here. He might be scared of maybe now Dromoka's command in response to the activated ability being used. And actually, the cards in hand were updated for both players. Actually, Oliver Tiu does not have an Elder Deep Fiend in hand. He just has double Emrakul apparently.
Oh no.
Which means that he really needs to find something good here. He's also not close to Delirium.
No, he seems to have had one of those, like, no vessels, nothing like that. It's a little limited. Yeah, no grapples. Gather the Pack. That kind of card can really fill up your graveyard quickly, and instead he's just been playing Nissa's Pilgrimage. Looks like he's going to discard one of his copies of Emrakul.
But he did actually draw the Kozilek's return that I was raving on about with the Jace here.
Did he really?
Yes.
5 cards, right?
Oh, that's what our
You're right, he did.
Floor reporters are telling us.
Jeez.
This is Oliver Tiu's hand right now. A lot of lands, but also a Kozilek's return and an Emrakul. And now look at, he already has land, sorcery, and creature. He discarded one of those Emrakuls.
He did.
So he's Emrakul's costing 10 now.
Starting to come together.
Yeah.
You can see a game plan forming.
Yeah, and he also has that Shrine of the Forsaken God, so he's getting quite close, but dropping down to 9 already.
Take a damage.
And here we go. We're going to see Kozilek's return. Now, the Tireless Tracker, unfortunately, from Oliver's perspective, is now able to get bigger thanks to that clue and the mana that Márcio has available. We talked about the Noose Constrictor before. If Márcio decides to, he can discard a card to give the Noose Constrictor 3 toughness and dodge that.
Well, this play is very important because Márcio was keeping up the mana for potentially doing some things with the Elder Deep Fiend that he has in his hand, maybe tapping down Oliver's lands on his upkeep to prevent him from being able to cast anything relevant. And now Oliver is forcing the issue, presenting Márcio with an option. If he decides to sacrifice the clue to draw a card and discard one to the Noose Constrictor so that his creatures do survive, he won't be able to cast that Deep Fiend or do much else for that matter, because we also know that he has a collected company. So yeah, it looks like he might be wanting his Tireless Tracker to die. Yes. So
he's going to let Tireless Tracker die, and he is going to keep Noose Constrictor by discarding a Duskwatch Recruiter.
All right, interesting. So now that means that he won't be able to cast Deep Fiend because the emerge cost is 7, and he would have needed a Tireless Tracker on the battlefield to sacrifice to emerge and cast it for 4. So now that means that he's firmly on the collected company plan here, and maybe looking to finish off the game. Oliver Tiu now also has Delirium, thanks to Kozilek's return in the graveyard. Looks like that also means that Emrakul costs 9 mana.
Jeez,
and
he got it down to 9, and of course that means that he can, put it in air quotes, but flash back the Kozilek's return, wipe the board.
Yeah, the trigger from the Kozilek's return is on the stack. Now Márcio with a tough decision.
He does have collected company that he can cast after
Yes,
to rebuild his board.
but it's not a great spot.
It is definitely not a great spot, and I think he's just going to have to let this happen. And that's exactly what he does. So this is a huge swing for Oliver.
Yeah, now
And
Oliver will be
Márcio-
able to control Márcio's turn.
That's right. So Márcio's really forced to cast Collected Company here, because if he doesn't, Oliver can cast it and just say, I didn't find anything again.
Exactly.
Bad luck. Put them all on the bottom.
Let's go.
So-
Let's see.
This at least gives Márcio a chance to build his board
Okay, Reflector Mage can deal with it, Emrakul at least.
temporarily.
Temporarily, yeah. Quite risky, of course.
Though, is there no longer an instant in the graveyard for Oliver? It
True.
did get exiled, right? So
Yes.
Oliver would need to hit a land drop, not a huge deal, but
Yeah. And I think Oliver has 2 lands in a
Okay,
sense, so,
so
shouldn't
that
be a problem.
shouldn't be an issue for Oliver. He should be able to recast Emrakul in a few turns' time.
Yeah, Márcio will most likely take that Reflector Mage just to get the Emrakul on from the board, because he's gonna, if Márcio untaps and the Emrakul will still be in play, Oliver controlling Márcio's turn can just attack with one of the creatures into the Emrakul, which is not something that he wants to happen.
That's right. Now let's see what happens here. There's a Yavimaya Coast off the top. Now I'll remind you, Oliver is controlling Márcio's turn here. So all of the actions for the turn are going to be taken by Oliver on behalf of Márcio. And it could get ugly for him, though with no creature on the battlefield on Oliver 2's side, that does ease the pain a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
He's not going to be losing. You know, a lot of times you just get one creature for free. Just here, this attacks into Emrakul, and then we'll figure out the rest. And that is not the case here, thanks to that Reflector Mage that Márcio hit.
Yeah, and remember, after Márcio's turn controlled by Oliver, Márcio gets to get his turn again. So maybe really just put more pressure on the board, rebuild after that big Kozilek's return wiped out the board.
So there's a few interesting interactions that can happen here. One of them is that there's a Selfless Spirit in hand for Márcio, which Oliver can just sacrifice. So that can just go away if he wants to spend the 2 mana. But there's also an Elder Deep Fiend in hand for Márcio, which if Oliver decides he wants to cast for him, he can sacrifice a creature as well. So there's a few different options here that Oliver has. The first thing he's going to do is just sacrifice the spirit, and I think that's all he's going to be able to do
I
this
think
time.
so too,
Little
yeah.
mana constrained.
Yeah, Oliver just doesn't want the Márcio to play the land or the Discord Recruiter, since untap Márcio getting that extra turn would mean that he could draw a land, maybe make the Sylvan Advocate bigger with
Sure.
having 6 lands, things like that. So a lot of trickiness going on there. And he actually did draw a land there.
Okay, well, we'll see if this works out, because remember, Oliver does have Emrakul in hand, and she could come back very soon here.
Not on Oliver's next turn, but
Thank you.
All right.
no, actually, yeah, the
I
Collected
do
Company was
believe
played
it
in
does.
Oliver's turn. You're right.
That's
you're
right.
right.
So Márcio is going to ignore Jace here and attack Oliver to
Down to
put him
4.
down to 4
Yeah.
life. This is game 2, and Marcio's up a game. If Oliver can't come back from this one, it's going to be very difficult being down 2 games and then going into the post sideboard.
Yes,
games.
but we know about that Elder Deep Fiend interaction with Reflector Mage. So now Oliver will get 4 lands
right.
tapped by the Deep Fiend, and it's going to be problematic for Oliver here.
To say the least.
Yeah, he does still have a Forest in his hand and a Primal Druid, so he will
Okay.
be able to survive the turn.
He will. Yeah, he'll be able to shrink down the Sylvan Advocate to only 2 power and block the Deep Fiend with this card right here, a Primal Druid. If nothing goes wrong, we don't see any Reflector Mages or more Deep Fiends or anything like that.
Indeed, but we also know Márcio still has that extra draw with that clue in play. So let's see if he draws something. Just
He
the
does
Lumbering
not.
Falls.
Yeah, Lumbering Falls off the top is not going to get the job done here.
Well, we will see another Emrakul.
That's right. Now, of
Soon.
note here also, though, Matej, there is a clue. You know, if Márcio doesn't have anything better to do, he might just crack that clue and hope to
Yeah.
peel that Reflector Mage to give him the win immediately.
It's definitely a really intense game.
Oh, here we
Márcio's going
go.
for it.
Can he find it right now? He's left the mana up. Oh, it's a forest off the top. That's not going to get it done.
Oh.
Okay, so Oliver is going to get another turn, and Emrakul's going to come back.
Yeah. So now Márcio might want to decide to attack Jace. No, he just goes for the face.
Goes to 2, right?
meaning that Márcio actually played the 6th land this turn, so the Sylvan Advocate shrunk down to 2 power, putting Oliver Tiu down to 2 life.
That's right.
And Emrakul is going to come down again.
Okay, this is where things are gonna get really interesting.
Yeah, but the thing is, Márcio's hand he just had a Dustwatch Recruiter before that. I think he played after combat. Yeah, Dustwatch Recruiter coming down, so only lands in Márcio's hand. So not much hurt that Emrakul can do. So maybe Oliver has to draw something else as well. Look, his hands are shaking a little bit. He's nervous.
I would be too.
He knows.
Heck, I am getting nervous right now.
He gets to cast the Emrakul here. But does he have anything else?
He's going to need more.
I mean, he still has that Jace as well.
Yes, that can make the Duskwatch Recruiter non-lethal. But he still could be facing down a lethal threat.
He goes for a Vessel here. That's going to make sure...
Ooh. How about Ishkana Graph Widow as an option?
That works. So Oliver actually might be thinking of, instead of casting Emrakul, just casting the Ishkana first to gum up the board a little bit, because Oliver can really protect himself with, in combination with the Ishkana and the Jace. It can be quite nice, making one of the creatures smaller, getting to block the rest, and maybe even having blockers for 2 turns, not just 1. And then next turn just cast the Emrakul and go for broke, basically.
Right, and then he has a decent chance to just wipe Márcio's board from that point. Yeah,
look, Oliver's already doing the math here. What can I? Where can I put -2/-0 with my Jace? Do I have to play Emrakul this turn or do I not? Can I just play Ishkana and wait? What other cards are problematic? Because remember, there's only 3 creatures on the board, but there's also Lumbering Falls hiding there among the lands for Márcio. And it's also a 5/5. Oliver's only on 2, so he can't really afford to take any damage here.
No, basically every creature is going to be lethal at this point. He does have ways to mitigate that partially with his Jace, but...
Yeah, look at the stare.
Yeah.
It's intimidating.
Yeah, you can tell that Márcio is in intense mode here. We'll also note that last turn, Márcio did draw Lumbering Falls and play it. So that's another thing that Oliver's going to have to keep his eye on. If he lets the shields down a little bit too low, it won't work. Now, in this scenario, though, if he plays Ishkana and plus his Jace, that will give him plenty of defense for this next turn.
Okay, he's going for the minus though here.
All right. So he's going to go for grapple. He's got something in mind. Let's see what he finds. Oliver had done a bunch of counting and such on that prior interaction and has now decided on his game plan.
He has a full graveyard to choose from here.
So he is going to be casting Ishkana Graph Widow this turn, that means.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what he's trying to achieve here, but I'm sure he has a plan here.
Let's sit back and find out. This is exciting.
Yeah.
He's trying to even things up here in game number 2. We're going to be going to sideboarded games after this.
One more Ishkana. He's hesitating a little too much here. It looked like he had a clear plan going in, but okay. So he gets another Ishkana. Okay, he still can play a land here.
Yeah, he had the shrine anyway, so he's fine as far as casting Ishkana goes.
Yeah.
Looks like he's got something else. Okay, Ishkana it is. All right. So here comes Ishkana with the 3 spiders. But remember, he did minus Jace here, so he needs every single one of these blockers.
Yeah.
Because of that Lumbering Falls back there. Oh, there's a Reflector Mage. Now, he does not have enough mana to cast Reflector Mage and activate Lumbering Falls. This is something that Oliver Tiu will have considered so that he doesn't just die to Reflector Mage off the top, and that careful planning is going to pay off. Now, this is the narrowest of margins.
Yeah, it's also interesting because Márcio knows that Oliver has another Ishkana in his hand, so if he bounced that, he knows that Oliver cannot replay
both
either
stranded.
of them, yeah. And while killing all the spiders with an attack. Because Oliver has to block every single creature that is getting through.
So close for Márcio Carvalho finding that Reflector Mage, but still it's going to set him just one creature short.
Yeah.
Now it will force Oliver Tiu to chump block, though, with all 3 spiders.
Yeah. So
If he wants
clearing
to-
the board again, which makes it so that Oliver might be forced to play an Emrakul. And
an Emrakul may not be good enough if Márcio has a big board built out.
That's exactly what's looks like will happen here.
Okay, Reflector Mage your Ishkana. This is the plan that we saw, and everything's going to get the red zone, so Oliver's just going to chump block with each spider on each attacking creature before Márcio just passes the turn back and strands 2 Ishkana Graph Widows in Oliver Tiu's hand thanks to the Reflector Mage.
Yeah. Oliver might have had a plan of maybe
he found a
play.
Primal Druid.
Yeah, I mean that's at least a blocker. He can definitely play Emrakul and Primal Druid, and I quite don't see all the cards in his graveyard just yet.
He's got him in his hand right now.
Yeah, not sure how much Emrakul costs. We know he has Delirium for sure because I definitely see an artifact creature. There's an enchantment, sorcery land. Not sure if he's. Okay, so we have Emrakul at 8 mana.
Emrakul costs 8 mana right now?
Yes.
Okay.
And he also has the Shrine of Forsaken Gods, which gives him 2 mana for that Emrakul. So he'll probably get to cast that and something else. We'll see what it's going to be. He does have a Primal Druid, but we know he cannot cast the Ishkana because of Reflector Mage's ability.
That's right.
You only got 5 types? 5 types, yeah.
Players confirm with each other that they've got 5 different card types, which is the same information we have.
Yes.
How many cards now? 3? 4 cards. 2 Ishikanas on my mouth. Cool.
That's right. Márcio knows about 3 of the 4 cards in hand now for Oliver. He mentioned that too. He said 2 Ishkanas, 1 Emrakul. And this is Traverse the Overwald now for Oliver too. He is minus Jace on back-to-back turns.
So he has Delirium.
Is he just going to go get an Elder Deep Fiend here?
Yeah, possibly just tapping all the 4 creatures and
having the Fiend to block the falls.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't quite see, but that is what I would assume he went to get. He can just hard cast it. He did get an Elder Deep Fiend.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to see an Emrakul now from Oliver Tiu and a Primal Druid, and he's left up double blue. You can sacrifice Emrakul to your Elder Deep Fiend if you have to.
Indeed.
To pay for the emerge cost. And on end step, we're going to see Márcio Carvalho use Duskwatch Recruiter.
Oof.
Oh, he found his own copy of Elder Deep Fiend there.
Yeah, I like this innovation in his Bant Company deck. The Elder Deep Fiends are just the right size that they don't get killed by Kozilek's returns and can actually, what we like to say, time walk Oliver Tiu, meaning that just by casting it with its emerge cost, maybe sacrificing something like a Reflector Mage, tapping down all the lands and getting a big creature to boot. This is a very intense game.
Yeah, this game has been very intense indeed.
Elder Deep Fiend or Sylvan Advocate?
Yeah, he's still in the tank about what it is that he should actually take here.
Yeah, remember next turn of Márcio is going to get controlled by Oliver, so Márcio has to make sure that he won't put something into his hand that can backfire against him.
So now what Márcio's doing is mapping out how he thinks things are going to go. Okay, I'm going to lose my Deep Fiend, but I've got this Lumbering Falls down here. Can I put together something somehow, some way?
Oliver Tiu being firmly on defensive, but once Oliver gets his turn, he'll be able to play that Ishkana. We know he also has that Elder Deep Fiend in his hand that he could cast now by sacrificing the Emrakul, but of course, there's no point just now.
It looks like he decided on the Sylvan Advocate, Matej.
Yes, he went for Sylvan because he didn't want the Elder Deep Fiend. Okay.
So you can see that Márcio has now shown his hand to Oliver, and this is once again the turn that Emrakul is helping Oliver control here of Márcio Carvalho.
Yeah, so I think Oliver's plan might just be for. I'm trying to think ahead here. He's probably going to have Márcio suicide his Elder Deep Fiend into the Emrakul, and then Oliver next turn he'll most likely just want to attack with the Emrakul, hit Márcio down 7, and then Elder Deep Fiend tap all the creatures from Márcio and untap and attack with the Emrakul again. I think it seems like this is what he was setting up for quite a while.
But is Oliver going to be able to set up a board state where he is still alive here?
Yeah, that's the problem, because Márcio does have
he gets
an
his
extra turn.
That's right. We're going to see Evolving Wilds from Márcio Carvalho via Oliver Tiu, who is going to not bother finding the land. That's how that works. And he also says, I already know your deck. I'm not going to look. Yeah. Again, these players have been studying each other's deck lists since yesterday, so this isn't an information game. Now, if that kind of thing happens in a post-sideboarded game, you might be able to pick up some key info, but not here. So
right. So since Márcio does get another turn after this one, what I described previously will, of course, not work, because Oliver will be forced to play that Deep Fiend to tap down the attackers anyway. And so that plan is not going to work out at all.
What it looks like is going to happen is that Oliver is going to have to sacrifice Emrakul to his own Elder Deep Fiend to stay alive.
On the following turn of Márcio.
That's right, on Márcio, the one that he gets to control.
Yes. This is quite complicated.
So what happened here is Oliver's going to activate Duskwatch Recruiter for Márcio. He, of course, is going to fail to find.
Oliver just finding out what's going through Márcio's library. It's actually useful because now, for example, he knows that Márcio's playing one Archangel Avacyn, and now he knows it's on the bottom of the library, so he doesn't have to worry about that down the stretch.
Also, another key card went in that first activation. Another Reflector Mage went down to the bottom.
Yes,
and we did see that attack now that we anticipated.
With the Duskwatch Recruiter as well, because Oliver realized that that's one of the ways that maybe he could lose. Oh, even plays land.
Oh, I played Evolve. Yeah, sorry.
So Oliver trying to play a second land.
You heard him get corrected there, and that he will not be able to do that. So now Oliver's going to end Márcio's turn, which is going to give Márcio his turn. And you can see on upkeep, there's Emrakul getting sacrificed to Elder Deep Fiend to sacrifice the 3 creatures and to tap the 3 creatures and the Lumbering Falls to make sure that Oliver does not die here.
It looks like Márcio.
Yeah, so Márcio, if he wants, can activate his Lumbering Falls. It becomes a creature with hexproof. It won't be able to be targeted anymore, and it will stay untapped. He can then tap it for mana or attack with it.
Yes, which is actually quite relevant because Márcio has one Sylvan Advocate in play, so the Lumbering Falls is a 5/5, and both players know that Márcio has another Sylvan Advocate. Remember, Sylvan Advocate pumps lands if they're creatures, so that would actually make it a 7/7.
That's right, and so Oliver just going to throw that Primal Druid in front, I would assume. Let's see what happens. Okay, Sylvan Advocate number 2 joins the fray.
Right.
And there's the attack, and you're going to see just the chump block from the Primal Druid. Oliver does not want to chump block with his Elder Deep Fiend here.
Interesting. All right, so Márcio drew a Tireless Tracker, which is not quite relevant here, and Oliver will have the opportunity to untap. Finally has the double Ishkanah Graph Widow in his hand.
That's
and
right.
Nothing else.
He could play both as well. He will only be able to keep one, but he'll get a lot of spiders.
He also drew a Pilgrim's Eye, another blocker.
God, this game has been super intense. This has been one of those games where it feels like Oliver's just been hanging on by a thread, but
and already
he's
played 2 Emrakuls.
Emrakul 2 times. Like, isn't he supposed to win this game?
Yeah, like how many more does he need to really win? Like,
goodness.
He's been digging and searching.
But this is actually the turn that he's been working for the past couple of turns, which is a turn where he gets to finally just flood the board with blockers. Pilgrim's Eye. I do love seeing Pilgrim's Eye get play in Standard. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Love that card.
Yeah, it just fits just enough, right? He fixes your mana, gives you an attacker or blocker. Okay, here's Ishkanah. Spiders.
Yeah, he can still plus Chase to make something smaller. The Reflector Mage it is. That means that now it can get blocked by one of the spiders, and both will survive. There we have it flipped so that it's easier to remember.
That's right. Márcio just using a little reminder there. Is he going to play the other?
Yeah.
He is. He's just going to play the other Ishkanah. That's going to generate him 3 more spider tokens. Of course, Ishkanah being a legend means it doesn't get to keep both.
That might make it real tough for Márcio to keep attacking. I don't think he can attack into this board.
I'd be surprised if he could. It just becomes so easy to chump block with a couple of spiders and then just put a ton of creatures on, you know, a Sylvan Advocate or something like that.
Yeah, 1/2s are also pretty good as blockers, especially multiples. That makes it tough for Márcio actually to kill many of them, even if they quadruple block, for example. You know, Márcio has a Tireless Tracker and another Sylvan Advocate, so he's going real wide here. And but look at Oliver. He's out of cards. He has nothing left. He just, this is my board, and I'm gonna have to draw something here. One thing that worked well before was when he flashbacked one of those traverses, and maybe drawing something grapple with the past and buying back the Emrakul could be the winning play.
Absolutely.
If he draws that, of course. And Márcio making sure that what he's doing here is right. I don't think he wants to attack here, but at least he gets Tireless Tracker and a clue. That's going to dig him deeper. He can also play that Sylvan Advocate now. Not scared of Kozilek's return anymore.
You can see, by the way, the really good payoffs for Oliver Tiu's type play earlier of making sure that he took down the Duskwatch Recruiter, even though it wasn't the biggest creature on the battlefield. In fact, it was the smallest at the time. Yeah. But he made sure that that was a creature that he killed, because look at what Márcio's turn looks like here. If not, he can play a land, say go, basically find 3 spells by the time it comes back to his hand and just dump, more creatures onto the battlefield. Now, unfortunately for Oliver, Tireless Tracker is going to do a pretty good job in its stead.
There's the 3rd Sylvan Advocate for Márcio.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to be it for Márcio. Let's see if he does want to send anything into the red zone.
I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, the Elder Deep Fiend trades for a spider in this
exactly.
scenario.
It would just get blocked by the Deep Fiend of Oliver and +1 spider.
It's just not a good attack there. So no attacks from Márcio Carvalho, and Oliver Tiu gets a draw step at just 2 life. Is it Traverse?
Yes,
he
it's Traverse.
Found Traverse the Ulvenwald off the top of his library. That was perhaps the best draw he could have. Now he gets to go find Emrakul. Oh, and you see that look from Márcio. That was a huge swing for this game. Oliver Tiu hanging on. And now he's drawn Emrakul.
The promised end. Will it be the promised end here?
Is the end near? This is the board state that Oliver wanted when he cast the first Emrakul. Now he has all these blockers, and he can just decimate the board of Carvalho. Now, to be fair, Carvalho's board is very beefy here.
Yes.
He's got 3 charged up Sylvan Advocates. He's also still got the Elder Deep Fiend. But you gotta figure, after having cast a Deep Fiend, 2 Ishkanahs, and now an Emrakul with all the spiders left over, that Oliver's going to be able to just wreak havoc on this board as far as combat goes.
Yes. Remember, controlling your opponent's turn means also that you get to decide how the damage is going to be dealt.
Ugh.
So
Ugh.
Oliver can just say, oh, Márcio, okay, you're going to deal all this damage just to this one spider. So I think we're going to see a bloodbath here, but game is still not over. Stuff can happen.
Absolutely, and these are preliminary block scenarios here
Yeah.
from Oliver too. He just needs to find a way to deliver maximum carnage on Carvalho's board.
Look at that.
How many creatures can he actually kill?
This is the attacks he's lining up, and it looks great to me.
It does to me too.
He doesn't have to attack with everything either.
Of course not.
It just has to decide what is the most profitable way of dealing with this. And it looks like he prefers killing the Sylvan Advocates because it does make the Lumbering Falls bigger.
Mm-hmm.
He might also want to kill the Lumbering Falls if he's scared of it down the line. So
It does look like he's prioritizing the Advocates though, Matej. You are correct. The Elder Deep Fiend currently not slated to have an attack step.
that was a top deck.
That
A
was
true top deck.
a fine rip there for Oliver too.
And remember, he can also flash it back on the next turn with his Jace, because that's already 3 counters.
Yep. Okay, and he is going to attack this way, and you're going to see Márcio Carvalho's board go from pretty darn impressive to not much left.
This is gonna block this one first.
You said I attack with 4.
Yeah, you
right?
attack with these 4 creatures.
Oh, this is not.
Yeah, those aren't.
Okay, there you see. So attack with 4 creatures from Márcio there.
Okay.
And the blocks that Oliver lined up, but he just wants to resolve the damage here. So it means that all 4 of those creatures are going to die.
Matej, he traded a spider for that.
Yes.
That was the only thing that died for Oliver, was a single 1/2 spider token.
And he even has Márcio play the Yavimaya Coast and ping for 1 damage. And look at that. The board transformed so fast.
Yeah, there's a Reflector Mage off the top, but you know, the 3-drop, even as potent as they are here for Carvalho in his hand, he's got both a Tireless Tracker and a Reflector Mage, just don't seem like they're up to the task after finally the Turbo Emrakul deck got its engine running.
Yeah, I think.
That was the 3rd Emrakul, right?
Yes. He needed 3
It only
Emrakuls.
took 3.
Yeah. And an LDP and casting Ishkanah at least 3 times as well. Also, there was a Kozilek return flashback on the way. You know, like Oliver really needed a lot of things to happen and win this game. And I think now being able to flashback the Traverse means that he'll be able to fetch his 3rd LD Fiend and tap all the blockers potentially. But look at that. We might see a 4th Emrakul somewhere down the line here.
Okay, well, let's see how this game ends up finishing. It is going to be Reflector Mage to return Emrakul to hand, as well as the Tireless Tracker. Of course, Oliver had played that last land in hand for Carvalho the turn before, so he doesn't get to immediately make a clue. And there's a grapple with the pass, by the way, right off the top for Oliver too. And I think if I'm sitting in Carvalho's seat, I'm probably frowning even further as I see him immediately pick up his graveyard.
Indeed, those were a good bunch of draws there from Oliver too.
Yeah, back to back, very nice draws. Of course, he cannot cast Emrakul. She's going to have to wait till next turn, but
Yeah, so here's another grapple with the past. There's the other Deep Fiend and a Reg Griff as well. Yeah.
And Márcio Carvalho has seen enough. Oliver Tiu evens things up at 1 game apiece in a fantastically played game. That was a true pleasure to watch. Really great stuff.
Yeah, and it was very complex for us even to commentate on because there were quite a few lines of play there.
Once you complete sideboarding, shuffle and mulligan.
Okay, so it's time for us to move into the sideboarded games now.
have yours or?
No, I need this.
Okay, I think this is.
All right, why don't we take a look, actually I should say take a listen to what the players said about their plans for sideboarding for this matchup.
All right, Márcio Carvalho, tell me what your plan is once you go to the sideboard here in this matchup.
Well, in this matchup, I'm going to sideboard Gideon. That's insane against him because he doesn't have any answers for it. I'm going to sideboard Summary Dismissal for obvious reasons. It counters Emrakul, it doesn't seal the turn. If he sacrifices things for Elder Fiend, he doesn't tap anything, so it's good. I'm going to sideboard Clash too, because it's another counter for Ishikana. And one declaration, so I can kill the Ishikana tokens because that's the card key for him. And I'm going to sideboard some creatures that die for Kozilek Return and some bad creatures like Avacyn and some Squatch Recruiters, one Reflector or two. That's my plan.
So shave a couple cards here and there to make room?
Yeah. And maybe 1-2 companies because my creature count might get low and I don't want to have so many 4-drops in the deck. Summary, Gideon, Company can get a little awkward on the curve.
All right, Márcio. Good games the rest of the way here in the semifinals.
Thank you.
All right, I'm here with Oliver Tiu. Oliver, what is your plan once you get to go to sideboards here in this matchup in the semifinals?
Well, with this deck, you can't really afford to sideboard too many cards because it's such a focused strategy, so you need all your components. So mainly I'm just going to be trimming down on a couple cards like Primal Druid, probably going to cut the Nissa, trim down on Nissa's Pilgrimage, and one Emrakul. I'm going to bring in the Dispels for his Summary Dismissals, and I'm also going to bring in the other Ishkana. And on the draw, I think he's going to board in... Well, when he's on the play, he's going to board in Gideon, I think. So I'm going to board in my Lashweed Lurker when I'm on the draw to answer the Gideon.
All right, good games the rest of the way here in the semifinals. Oliver Tiu.
All right, welcome back to the feature match area here at the World Championship. We're here right alongside PAX. We've got a nice crowd here in the Paramount watching our match, and Matej, we've now transitioned into the sideboard matches,
Yes.
as you just heard from our players. So it sounds like Oliver doesn't have any real silver bullets here for the matchup. He's just making some tweaks.
Yeah, he mentioned the spells there, and I quite like the dynamics here where you heard Márcio say, oh, Gideon's insane in this matchup. I'm going to board in the 3. And Oliver's like, yeah, I think he's going to bring them in on the play. And, it's like this kind of dynamic where one player sees something that the other doesn't might influence what they were talking about after just one game. Mm-hmm. If Oliver sees the Gideon, even when Márcio is on the draw, that might mean that he might change a few things here and there. But overall, just I would be worried on Márcio's side, as he mentioned. It's a tough balance for a deck like Bant Company because you need to keep up the creature count for the collected companies. You have to watch your curve. If you board out too many of the early creatures, then you might get a little clunky because ultimately you do want to pressure your opponent. Because you can't just let Oliver get all the time in the world. So cutting a lot of 2-drops can be quite problematic.
Yeah, that is a trap that you see a lot of players fall into, is that they'll take what's supposed to be a proactive deck, and what it is at its core a proactive deck, and they will kind of over sideboard. They'll put a bunch of admittedly good reactive cards in their deck, and it kind of changes the way the deck plays out in a negative way overall, and sometimes you're better off just making fewer changes. Yeah. I doubt that Márcio will fall for that trap, as he's an experienced player, but it is something that you see pop up. It can be really tempting when you have a sideboard full of cards. You think, well, this would be good, this would be good, this would be good, this would be good, but all of a sudden your deck isn't very good anymore.
Yeah, exactly. You just have to keep thinking about your deck as a whole, as what is my ultimate strategy in this. Sometimes if your sideboard cards are powerful enough, you can change into being a different sort of deck. You don't have to be proactive, even if you were in game 1. As we like to call it, you can be the control player in the matchup in a way. But it usually is not the case. It's very hard to do if you want to keep a flexible sideboard as well. So I just assume Márcio is very aware of the curve he's trying to do. And I like the fact that he mentioned maybe sideboarding out one collected company because his creature count is going to be a little lower because he does want to bring those Summary Dismissals and the Clash of Wills in, and Gideons as well. So that's going to be interesting.
We mentioned we're here at PAX Prime, and we're going to be bringing you the finals after this. This is our second semifinal match of the day. We already played our first one. That was between Brian Brown-Duin and Shota Yasaoka, and boy, it was a quick one.
Yeah.
Brian just kind of went right through him, 3-0, and he earned his seat in the finals. Now, one interesting thing here as well, Matej, is how these players got here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've got some masters at work here.
Yeah, I mean, I said it yesterday when the last match of the Swiss rounds ended up that here we see on the left the limited master, draft master, Márcio Carvalho completely dominating the draft portions at Pro Tours, running away with it by far, and then proving it here, only losing the one round of draft to JC Tao out of 6. Yeah, so 5 more wins and just 1 loss. Just incredible achievement. Oliver Tiu, not only did he win Rookie of the Year, his first Pro Tour was like just a little over, less than a year ago, actually.
Just a little less than a year ago. That's right.
In Milwaukee at the Pro Battle for Zendikar, and he just did really well there. Got a lot of wins in Constructed, and just those wins kept coming over the season. And in the end, he won Constructed Master, meaning the most points from Constructed portions at Pro Tours.
That's right.
So out of 40 rounds of Magic of Constructed, he got the most points. Which is an incredible achievement, seeing how many good players were there in the running. So,
yeah, we do have our Draft Master and our Constructed Master. Those are the 2 ways that you can earn your seat here at the World Championship. There were 24 players to start the tournament, and a lot of different ways
you're thinking
to qualify.
Okay.
look at that, Oliver.
Nice shot of his hand here. We get a good look at that. You see, there's a Lashweed lurker hiding, as well as a Gideon. Emrakul. There's a Gideon there.
Yeah, Lashweed lurkers and because of that Gideon, so we already have that interaction.
Let me know when they're good to start.
All right, interesting. So.
All right, looks like players have kept, so we're going to be underway in Game 3 here. This is Márcio Carvalho on the play once again. He did earn the play. There's a Dispel off the top of the deck for Oliver Tiu. That could come in handy in a few turns.
Yeah, Oliver's hand is a little slow, though. He's on the draw, and his first play is very likely just going to be Pilgrim's Eye.
But may have spoken too soon there.
Maybe, yeah. He did draw a Traverse.
He just drew a Traverse, so he's going to use that. Not a big play.
No.
It's effectively drawing a land here.
Yes. Just developing his mana. Nothing wrong about that. No Delirium, so that means just getting the island there, and Oliver gets to play it immediately, and he can set up for Pilgrim's Eye next turn. On the other hand, if Márcio were to play a Tireless Tracker here on turn 3, Oliver can really blow him out with a Kozilek's Return. But I think Márcio is going to be well aware of that.
Okay, so, no play here from Márcio means that he's going to transform his Duskwatch Recruiter and leave up a rather ominous 3 mana here. Spellqueller has to be in mind for Oliver, right?
Yes, Spellqueller, but we know that Márcio has that Clash of Wills as well, so actually...
He's got options.
Yeah, but he does have a Spellqueller that I think he just drew this turn. It only costs 2 mana as well, because of that Crown Horde Howler.
Márcio looks pretty intense here. You can see that our players are wearing headsets. That's so that they can't hear Matej and I as we do our commentary. They are mic'd up to each other, though. So that microphone in front goes to Márcio so that they can communicate freely as you do in a game of Magic.
Oh, look at that.
And
Trixie.
It looks like Oliver is going to pass the turn back here. He does not want to run into a Spellqueller. Now, the interesting question for Márcio is, does he just run it out anyway? It is a 2/3 with flying that can, basically give him 5 power on the battlefield and really start hammering the life total of Oliver.
And I actually think it's a very solid plan. If also Márcio doesn't have a 4th land, I think if he had the 4th land, he'd be immediately going for it because we know he has that Gideon in his hand. And just playing creature, swinging it for a lot of damage. Yeah, he goes for it anyway. And let's see if he can draw the 4th land for the Gideon.
Makes a lot of sense here for Márcio, as this does give him a formidable board state that really is going to have to be dealt with by Oliver. And if Oliver's just going to not do anything for the turn anyway, he does not find the land that we just mentioned there, Matej.
Yes, but he still has the transformed werewolf there that makes his creatures cost 1 less. So this means that he can attack for 5 here, maybe play a Sylvan Advocate, while still leaving up 2 mana for a Clash of Wills for 1, potentially.
That is a very nice sequence there for Carvalho, and he's done exactly that, Matej. This one is looking quite good for Márcio in the early stages. It's going to be interesting to see if Oliver's going to be able to dig his way out of this, but given the pressure that he's facing and the fact that Márcio has a counterspell of some sort in hand, it's going to be very difficult for Oliver to come back from this.
Yeah, this is a very interesting spot here because Márcio is actually not playing any creatures with toughness 2 that would get killed by the Kozilek's return now. But Oliver might actually think about just running out the Kozilek's return here, just on empty, and maybe next turn playing Pilgrim's Eye while leaving up Dispel to protect his Pilgrim's Eye so that he could untap into Lashreed Lurker and flashback the Kozilek's return.
Okay, now that's interesting.
Now look at that. He's going to go for the Kozilek's return.
All he's doing is getting in his graveyard. That's it.
Yes.
It doesn't kill a single creature on Márcio Carvalho's side. So that was just Oliver trying to set up, not even this turn. He's trying to set up next turn.
Yes, and by playing a land before actually resolving that Pilgrim's Eye, not only does he play around the Clash of Wills that we know that Márcio has, but he's also strongly signaling, look, I have a Dispel in my hand.
Yes. And interestingly, we saw earlier that, Oliver, when he would play a card like Traverse, Ulvenwald, or Pilgrim's Eye, would often play the land that he got off of it to try to maintain as much information on his side as possible. But here, like you said, he's actually playing around Clash of Wills and also has his own copy of Dispel. So good, tight play there from Oliver too, adjusting his play pattern just subtly, but in an important way.
I liked Oliver's plan. I mean, that was it was offered to him, but it's completely blown out the water by a Reflector Mage.
Reflector Mage from Márcio Carvalho. That may be game here. That's 7 damage, and it puts Oliver way behind now.
Yeah, now I don't think there's anything that he could really draw with enough of an impact to survive this. Márcio also drew a 4th land. It is an Evolving Vows, but once he untaps and also will have either a Gideon Emblem or just plenty of mana for Clash of Wills, I think this game will be over once Márcio untaps here.
Yeah, it's just tough because he does have the Kozilek's return in the graveyard, but he needs 7 mana or more?
Yeah.
This is not going to happen.
Yeah. And I think Márcio saw exactly what was going on there.
That's going to do it. Márcio Carvalho takes game number 3 and puts himself up 2-1 over Oliver Tiu. And this next game could decide our second finalist if it's Márcio Carvalho. Otherwise, Oliver Tiu is going to have to rattle off a couple in a row here if he's going to be our other finalist.
Yeah, it's best 3 out of 5, remember. So Márcio just needing one more there. He is going to be on the draw here, which will make Oliver a very happy young man.
So maybe one of the most important cards for Márcio is certainly this match has been Reflector Mage, maybe just in his deck as well. And, this is a card that I'll admit I was pretty excited about when I first saw it.
Of course you did, Marshall. You love a Mana War if you see one. This one's even better.
And this one's even better than that somehow. Though I have to say, I am surprised at what a profound impact it's had on Standard. When I first read it, I did not anticipate that it was going to be this good. This card is unbelievable.
Yeah, neither did I. And remember, this whole Standard format was basically warped by two 3s. Sylvan Advocate and Reflector Mage. It just made a lot of creature with 2 power and not 3 toughness, just a lot worse because of these 2. Mm-hmm. And it also has made a lot of more expensive creatures quite unplayable because of Reflector Mage. You can invest so much mana into playing something, but if a Reflector Mage just clears out of the way and you can't even replay it, that just makes it that much worse. But it made other cards better, like something like Ishkanak Wrath Widow, because it still gives you that enters the battlefield triggers, still get those, or the cast triggers from Eldrazi.
That's right. Yeah, it's been an interesting tale for Reflector Mage, but it certainly has reached the peak of Standard on its own. Now, the other card, of course, that really helps enable Reflector Mage and Friends is Collected Company. And, I mean, this thing, God, that card's good.
Yeah, it's the bread and butter, right? Like either you play it or you try to beat it. 4 mana, but you can get 6 mana worth of creatures into play at instant speed with a lot of crazy abilities. We've seen the Reflector Mages, we've seen the Spell Quellers, but just so much power that you can do by casting Collected Company. And we've even seen it in Modern. Shota Yasuoka was playing Collected Company in his Abzan list, because it was, of course, a combo-based deck that worked with creatures, and Collected Company is just really good at finding creatures.
It's interesting because, it does present you with a deck building restriction that's pretty strong. It says, look, you're going to build this deck around me.
Pretty much,
Collected Company, wants you really to play as many three converted mana cost or less creatures as possible in the deck. But once you submit to that request, all of a sudden things come together pretty nicely for you.
Yeah, exactly. We saw Márcio really pushing the lower limits of Collected Company here. He's only was playing 25 creatures, 24 creatures, which is on the lower end, whereas maybe in places like Modern, you went up easily to the mid-30s because your decks also ran fewer lands. Remember the Elf deck that won the Stars to Games Invitational in Modern, very low on land because it's just a lot of mana elves, but still for Collected Company just to get those elves in.
Got to find those key combo pieces, and we saw that, in Modern, in multiple decks as well. Really fantastic card. You can take a look at some of the highlights of our stage here. They've done a fantastic job of integrating the look and feel of Kaladesh into the Paramount Theater here in Seattle, Washington. We're right next to PAX, which is going on right now as well. I'm sure there's thousands and thousands of gamers.
Oh, I actually walked around the Paramount Theater where we are itself, and there's so much Magic being played. Like almost every space that is a table, or even on the ground, just people are playing Magic, and it's awesome to see. I just love the atmosphere that the players are there. Look at that, Willie Adel and Thiago Saporito.
Yeah, they're sitting right in the front row there, cheering Márcio on actually. And Tim, who's down on the floor as our floor reporter, was saying that they're sweating every draw step as hard as Márcio is actually sitting in the seat there.
Yeah, and he has been doing that all weekend long. Actually, he said it's not good for his heart. He's not the youngest one anymore, and he was maybe living through those draw steps, through those games, even more than Márcio himself.
Willie said that?
Yeah, and I talked to both of them after time, and Willie is just rooting so hard for his friends. He's one of the best cheerleaders you can have, while also being a formidable Magic player himself, and especially in Modern, I'm pretty sure he helped Márcio and Thiago put together their absent deck lists.
You can see the whole crew there making everything happen. From a coverage perspective, as our players just finish shuffling up here for game number 4, Márcio Carvalho up 2-1, and he is so intense as Márcio. I mean, you can just see it on his face. And I'll tell you what, if he does manage to win this game and put himself into the finals, you'll see a big reaction out of him.
Oh yeah, we've seen him, pump the fist several times when he was getting real close to that top 4 berth, and he locked it up fairly early. With 2 rounds to go, and was able to draw with Brian Brondu in round 13, meaning that both got into the top 4, and now there's a chance that they might actually play in the finals.
Oliver Tiu has a little bit of work to do here. He's got to win back-to-back games if he's going to find himself in the finals against his countryman Brian Brown-Duin. Take a little cursory look at the opening hands now. Players are still deciding whether to keep or mulligan, but you can run it through your own process and say, would I keep this, would I not, as we play along with, in this case, Márcio.
An interesting hand from Márcio, a little slow there, not a lot of early pressure. Let's see what Oliver has. I've seen Ishkana and Forest Yavimaya Coast, Mrs. Pilgrimage as well, and then at least one Eldrazi there. Yeah, Oliver just wants to play.
He does, and it looks like the players are ready to go, so we're going to get them going straight away, and off we go with a Vessel of Nascency to kick things off for Oliver Tiu as he passes the turn back to Márcio, who kicks things off with a Lumbering Falls. Remember, Oliver Tiu once again on the play this time, which could really matter. He's got his second land for that Vessel, hasn't played anything else as of yet.
Márcio did draw a Sylvan Advocate here. His hand was a little slow, just a spell Queller's creature, but good answers overall. And there you see a Fortified Village. It's going to enable the Advocate to be played on turn 2.
This is what he needs to do. Play a 2-drop on turn 2, get that pressure rolling. He really does play the aggressive role in this matchup here. Oliver is spending his mana on things like this.
Yes.
Things like Vessel of Nascency, which are setting up later game plays, but don't do anything to block or attack or anything like that in the early stages. And this is what Márcio's looking to capitalize on, is while Oliver spends his mana setting up the late game, Márcio is taking big chunks out of his life total. Here's Nissa's Pilgrimage. Now we get to see a little of that turbo going again. This is a mana ramp spell after playing the Vessel. I did see that Oliver also picked up a Dispel for his draw step, though he's not worried about leaving that up this turn as there's nothing really relevant on Márcio's side. Also, finding that Nissus Pilgrimage is really nice because he gets it around any type of counter magic. It also gives him extra mana for cards like Clash of Wills, and it makes Reflector Mage not look quite as good. I mean, there's nothing on the board, so things working out pretty well in the early stages for Oliver.
Yeah, the Vessel was just really good. It gave him instant Delirium because it was enchantment itself and revealed creature, land, and a sorcery as well. So that means he has Delirium, so he's going to be able to play turn 4 Ishkana Graph Widow, which is very nice indeed.
With spiders?
With spiders, yes.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, it is good, especially when Márcio really, if he's going to sit on a spell queller, Ishkana costs 5, so the spell queller, doesn't really do anything there. And while Márcio does have a Declaration in Stone to answer the tokens maybe, it's going to be a great play for Oliver. It's going to give him a lot of time.
Oliver's just going to get to bypass any problems here, and he can just confidently play Ishkana. Now, he knows that Clash of Wills is a possibility, but Márcio doesn't have it, and bang, there's the 3 spiders. And just like that, Oliver Tiu has pulled ahead in this game 4. And Márcio is in an unenviable position of maybe casting a spell queller that can't really get through for damage here.
Yeah, look at Márcio's hand there. A lot of quality there, but even
he did nothing for that turn. Like, I'm not saying that it's a mistake. I'm just saying that if you're in Márcio's seat, you are not happy doing just stone nothing for turn 3 with that deck.
Yeah, passes again here.
Jeez.
I mean, he's probably, what I think Márcio's trying to do here is maybe try to spell queller something here.
Anything?
Yeah, anything like grapple. It's just an instant, so it would be harder to do. But maybe a Gather the Pack. Or another Nissus Pilgrimage, maybe a Vessel of Nascency, or something, and then untap, and then try to, Declaration in Stone, the tokens away, or maybe just keep up mana for that Summary Dismissal, something, so that he's not falling behind on the board too much. Look at that Oliver Tiu picking up an Elder Deep Fiend here.
Ooh, very nice.
That's a good one.
First things first, though, Ishkana looks like we may have an attack on our hands. That's right. Ishkana is going to get in there for
boom
3.
No fear.
It's going to fall down to 17. I like it. And once again, this could be it looks like Márcio is going to let this Gnarlwood Dryad resolve as well.
And it was bait, and he didn't bite.
Now, is he going to get rid of this Vessel of Nascency with one of his with a spell queller?
I think so.
Yeah, that's exactly what he does.
But right.
This is getting interesting as Oliver Tiu looks like he may be able to pull into the aggressive role somehow. Remember that Gnarlwood Dryad is deliriumed as well. It's a 3/3.
Yep. It's big. It's scary. And Oliver Tiu still has an Emrakul and the Elder Deep Fiend in hand alongside this spell too.
Mm-hmm.
It might be an interesting battle of a Summary Dismissal against this spell.
Yeah, I think that that Oliver may be considering his option on that Elder Deep Fiend. Now, he would have to sacrifice Ishkana if he wanted to play it. You can see Márcio with the read there. He says, upkeep? And you know what? Oliver's actually going to oblige him and say, you know what? I am going to think for a minute on your upkeep.
Yeah, I actually don't quite like this. If Oliver should have decided in his turn what he's going to do in the upkeep. So if Márcio asked him, so upkeep, Oliver would instantly be able to say yes or no. But this is a little bit of a tell, maybe.
Oliver decides not to cast his Elder Deep Fiend and let Márcio have an extra draw step here. This is important. Márcio has Summary Dismissal in hand and now can cast it. Looks like he found a Duskwatch Recruiter.
Unfortunately, his lands were not cooperating that much. This game, they were coming into tapped left and right, so it's been a little slow out of the gates. And Márcio certainly knows about the risk of the spell. If Márcio just keeps up 4 mana here, it's not a great place to be. Because of that dispel from Oliver. I mean, especially with the Elder Deep Fiend potentially coming down fairly early. But I don't think Oliver's going to cast it here because he only has 2 blue mana up. So I think he will want to maybe try to draw into another island to protect it with a Dispel. And of course, we know what it is in Marcio's hand, but this way Oliver also protects it against Collect Company if Márcio had one. Dispel being a great card.
It looks really good in Oliver's hand this game. You know, the ability to counter one of 2 different 4 mana instants, like that's a pretty big swing for Oliver.
Yeah, exactly. A tough spot for Márcio Carvalho, who's taking his time on his turn, but he will have to spring into action soon. It looks like he's going to pull the trigger here, so declaration on the spiders, quite likely. So that's going to exile all the tokens
all
without
3 of them.
No clues for Oliver too, because they're tokens.
So that is probably the cleanest way to get rid of an Ishkana spider family there, is just a declaration in stone. It's only 2 mana.
Yeah. Plus, Márcio now gets to attack with a Spell Queller.
Okay. Every bit of damage could matter here for Márcio, as he really does need to chip in there.
16, 17, right?
Yeah, Oliver working towards an Emrakul, though. He still is some ways off, but there's a Primal Druid.
Okay. Well, he was happy to see that.
Yeah, indeed.
He's going to cast it immediately.
Yeah, but I think Oliver is going to start to play this game a little more defensively.
The long game should benefit Oliver, though. I have to say this Bant Company deck is shockingly good at keeping up on cards.
Yes.
It is not the kind of thing where it just dumps its hand on the table and says, well, am I going to win or not?
Yeah.
It has the ability to generate massive amounts of card advantage thanks to Duskwatch Recruiter and Tireless Tracker primarily.
And we've seen Tamiyo do so much work in game 1. Can you imagine Márcio drawing Tamiyo on this board, just tapping down both blockers and just rushing in through damage quickly?
Now, we knew he had 1 in the main deck. Does he have extras that he brought in, or was it that was it?
I think he just had the 1. Yeah. Just 1 Tamiyo in his main deck. None in his sideboard. Hey, you can check out the deck, all the standard deck lists over on dailymtg.com, as well as the modern deck list. Those were some spicy ones too.
Yeah. Also get match updates, a little bit of a different angle than the one we bring you here. We saw Chapman Sims writing up the report for this one, and you can get it's kind of a different view on the same type of thing. It's cool. Also some awesome features and that kind of stuff as well from our written team.
Yeah, right. So the basic dynamic of this game is that Oliver wants to cast a good Elder Deep Fiend.
Yes.
And he needs 2 blue mana for that. He doesn't have the island in Yavimako, so he can cast the Elder Deep Fiend pretty much any time through a merge, thanks to his Ishkana that he could sacrifice. However, if he does that, he doesn't have another blue mana to play that Dispel. And we know Márcio has a Summary Dismissal, which works nicely against an Elder Deep Fiend because it will exile not only the Deep Fiend itself, but also the ability that taps 4 permanents.
Yeah, which is a huge deal because oftentimes an entire game rests on that ability resolving. I'm going to tap down your team so that I don't die this turn.
Yes, and we've seen it in previous games as well. Look at that. Márcio Carvalho is going for Reflector Mage, trying to bounce the Ishkana.
And we're going to see a response here from Oliver, too. He says, okay, fine, if you're going to shields down, I'm going for it. I can play around Clash of Wills anyway, sacrifice, and play the Elder Deep Fiend to lock down the team. There is a follow-up play in the form of Sylvan Advocate here for Carvalho, so he is keeping rolling quite nicely here as well. But Oliver, too, does get the Elder Deep Fiend on the battlefield.
Yeah, so basically by Márcio deciding to play the Reflector Mage, Oliver knew that the shields are down. No Summary Dismissal can play because it does cost 4 mana, so which enabled Oliver just to play that Elder Deep Fiend as a big blocker. And now Oliver is actually getting quite close to the Emrakul. He has 6. I think he drew a 7th land, and I think Emrakul costs 9 now. He has 4 different card types. So
yeah, you can see that top row of his graveyard are the different card types. He lays those out so that he can see how many he has.
Yeah. And, there's a Primal Druid on the board. If that dies, it's 1 more land. He's getting real close here.
Yeah. So I'm at 15.
You had
you're at
15,
14.
right? That's right.
Yeah, just checking the live totals here.
Oh, okay.
You have 1-2. I was wondering how they were hearing. You have 1-2.
Okay, and it looks like Oliver's just going to pass a turn back here to Carvalho.
Yeah, Oliver's defenses are all right for the moment. A 3-3 Nollywood Dryad and a 5-6 Elder Deepfin. But now that we've moved past the casting of the Elder Deepfin and resolving, Márcio has a very good board. That's what Recruiter as well, and the Summary Dismissal in his hand that can deal with an Emrakul and its trigger.
That's right, and this is going to be interesting to see how that pans out, because if Oliver finds himself in a position where he cannot leave up Dispel, he's going to have to really weigh his options on if he can wait to cast it until he has a Dispel available or not.
I love that. Márcio rolling up his sleeves like, let's get to work now.
All right, it's business time here for Márcio Carvalho. He's got Oliver Tiu at 15 life, but he's built out a very impressive board, and you know what? He's just going to pass the turn back.
That's interesting. I wonder why Márcio did not attack, at least with his Spell Queller there.
I don't know.
There's a look at that. Gather the pack. I think Márcio has another Spell Queller in his hand, so that this will probably take action. Look at how useful these small things are. The Spell Queller only costs 2 mana thanks to that flip Duskwatch Recruiter.
And now he can leave up Summary Dismissal.
Yeah, if he was scared as well. We know Oliver also has a Dispel, but I don't think Oliver will be able to get to a point where he can cast Emrakul and leave up Dispel.
There's another Duskwatch Recruiter off the top of the deck for Márcio. I wonder if he's ready to start attacking. Now he's going to attack with both Spell Quellers.
I think he forgot to attack the previous turn.
It did feel like it, though. He may have had something in mind.
Yeah, you won't know. There's a land. So getting real close to the Emrakul there. It costs 9, so 9 for now.
He's effectively at 12 mana towards it.
Yeah.
1 away from Emrakul, though. Summary Dismissal's a huge play here. There's another Sylvan Advocate for Carvalho who just keeps building out this board wider and wider and wider. And meantime, he is cracking in for a very respectable 4 damage in the air now. Every single turn.
Yeah, I think Márcio's almost there. There's a Pilgrim's Eye, which is a flying blocker, but I think Márcio will be just able to attack with everything here. He has enough big creatures that it should be enough.
He should be. Oliver's all the way down to 7. He does have 4 blockers currently, but look at all the attackers from Márcio Carvalho.
Hey, Márcio didn't matter. Look, okay, so he's going to block my 4 biggest guys.
He has 9 attackers if you include the Lumbering Falls.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why. Sure, there you go. Get your Pilgrim's Eye. If you block my 4 largest creatures...
you take 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9?
Yes, more than enough. So I think Márcio just might
Márcio
be
may be
real
on the
close.
verge of putting himself into the finals to play against Brian Brown-Duin for the World Championship. Is this the turn? Oh, he just drew Tamio off the top just in case it was in question.
Yeah, but now he has to decide. Does he want to leave up the Summary Dismissal, or is he going to go for the Tamio?
I think he will, because he wants to see if there's an Elder Deep Fiend. He attacks with everything into the red zone, and Oliver is trying to line up any blocks he can. Is there anything that Oliver can do? He's got an Emrakul and a Dispel in hand, and it doesn't look like it's going to work out for him. Márcio Carvalho is attacking for lethal, up 2 games to 1. And this could be the combat step that puts him in the finals of the World Championship. He waits nervously as Oliver exhausts all of his options. You see the look on his face, and that's going to do it. Márcio Carvalho into the finals. And just as promised, we got a big reaction out of Márcio there. And why not? He's just put himself into the finals of the World Championship. He's going to be playing Brian Brown-Duin in a best 3 out of 5 to see who wins.
Look at that. Look at that. It's so intense. Márcio chatting away with his friends there on the rail.
Fantastic stuff there from Márcio.
Like a turn, and then I said,
oh, yeah, he forgot.
This game for 2 damage.
Yeah, and you heard what he said. I just forgot to attack, and that was what you and I
Yeah.
thought. You know, we don't like to presume too much, just in case he had something in mind there. But it was, he just forgot to attack with that. And that's the kind of mistake that didn't punish him this time, but really sticks in your head as you're like, please don't let that be the one that punished me. I just missed to attack one creature. But ultimately, he did prevail, and he's going to be in the finals. All right, to set things up for those finals, we've got Rich Hagan on the top deck.
Thanks very much, Marshall. Thanks, Mateo. I've been joined by Ian Duke. Ian, Marcio's in.
Yeah,
Great job.
Incredible. I mean, that whole match was just awesome to watch. I was backstage in the players round, and we were just lounging. We were just on the edge of our seats watching the match.
Yeah,
unfold.
and as the day's gone on, that Players' Lounge has got stacked with more and more Hall of Famers and Pro Tour champions and Pro Tour Hall of Famers elect. I noticed Owen Turtenwald in for that second semi-final. Great stuff. Down on the floor, though, a very, very excited man. It's Márcio Carvalho.
Thanks, Rich. I'm here with Márcio Carvalho. Márcio, what were you yelling to your teammates there at the end of that match?
They were like, come outside, come outside. I'm saying, wait. It was insane, this game. I missed a point of damage from the spell queller, and inside I was like, if I lose this game for 2 damage, I'm going to kill myself. Because I still thought he had Ishikana for some reason, when he didn't. So I was like, damn, such a dumb mistake there. But all the other 4 games, I think I played well, so...
Playing Magic for a number of days here at a very high level, so I think people are allowed a mistake here and there. Now you're going through to the finals. Give me a preview. How does Bant Company match up against Bant Humans?
Well, I think he got advantage because he's gonna play first, and in the mirror, like playing first is like in a really, really good advantage. But I think I have to get lucky and draw more companies than him.
Now, you guys have played each other throughout this tournament. How many times did you guys play in the Swiss rounds?
2 in the Swiss rounds, and now so 3 times.
And what's the match record in those first 2 matches?
I won in limited, then he won me on the last round to make top 4, and then I won.
Okay, so who's going to be? What are you going to do here to just relax for 10 minutes in between these rounds? How are you going to get your head back on and focused on a new game of Magic as you go into the finals here at the Magic the Gathering World Championships? You're a match away from platinum after missing it this season.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster. In these 10 minutes, I'm going to be with Willie and Bolovo talking some sideboard strategies and just hanging out like always. So.
All right, good luck. I'll let you. I don't want to take any more of your time. I'm going to let you go and catch up with Willie Ado and Tiago Saporito. In the meantime, I'm going to send it back up to the news desk where Rich Hagan is waiting eagerly.
It's true, BDM. I'm up there and I'm eager, as always. Ian Duke here with you. So what we're going to do, we're going to walk you through the day so far, mark your card for what's still to come. So let's take a look at our top 4 bracket, and we began this morning with the semi-final matchup between Brian Brown-Dewin of the United States with his Bant Humans deck up against Japan's Shota Yasuoka with Bant Company. Ian, a Hall of Famer against a Grand Prix Master. Theoretically, a mismatch. It was a mismatch in terms of the score. It was 3-0, but let's see who advanced. It was Brian Brown-Dewin, and you were in the commentary box for that.
That's right. It was actually a bit of a surprise for us down there, Rich. Coming into the matchup, the decks were very similar, variants both on the Bant Company deck, and we thought it was roughly a 50-50 matchup coming into that, perhaps even with Shota Yasuoka being favored, especially in those post-sideboard games. That being said, Brian Brown-Dewin was able to steal the first 2 games pre-sideboard and then closing things out in the 3rd game for a blisteringly fast win over Shota Yasuoka.
And it was also not just fast, but it was also what I might call hassle-free. There were not a lot of intense moments in any of those games. He started out ahead, he pulled further ahead, he won. Then he did it all again, and then he did it all again. So in terms of the mental reserves of stamina and energy, BBD had a great path to the final.
He did. I think he's feeling great. He's going to be very confident going into the finals, and I can't wait to see what he brings to the table.
All right, so let's take a look then at our bracket once again. We have just had our second semi-final here at PAX at the World Championship. That was between Márcio Carvalho, again, Bant Company, just as Shota Yasuoka was, and he was up against Oliver Tiu, and that was the draft master in the case of Carvalho, and the constructed master in the case of Oliver Tiu. Well, it was 4 games, so it didn't go the full set, but Márcio Carvalho advanced by 3-1. Ian, this time though, real tension left and right, especially that second game.
Yeah, especially the second game, Rich. As I mentioned earlier, I was backstage in the Players Lounge watching the games unfold with some of the other Worlds competitors here. And we had a group of about 8 or 10 of us all watching the monitor, listening to the commentary, and we were trying to piece together the puzzle ourselves.
Right.
And even all of us together couldn't quite, unwind exactly what each player should be doing. There were a bunch of very tense moments, a bunch of very tough decisions, and just watching the whole match was incredible.
Even Steve Rubin couldn't put together the pieces of the puzzle, so if he can't, who can? So there we are, that's the story of the semi-finals. When we come back here live in just 5 or 6 minutes time, we'll mark your card for the final itself. The players will be gearing up for that. Our best guess round about 10-12 minutes away from the start of the World Championship final for 2016. But we're going to send you away just for a little bit to have a look at the creative Q&A that happened yesterday. There was a panel here down on the main stage. Some of the real greats of the creative team at Wizards of the Coast came to answer your questions, and we put together a nice little highlights package for you. So we'll see you in about 5 minutes right here at the Paramount.
Welcome to the 2016 Magic Q&A panel. Yes, welcome. Welcome.
In the past few sets, we've kind of seen the climax and the resolution in card form in the same set. So when we were introduced to Ulamog, we also had a Hedron network in the same set, and then Emrakul was imprisoned in the moon. So they kind of spoiled the story a little bit. What are you guys' thoughts on that moving forward?
I have thoughts on this. So it drives me crazy that we spoil our own stories. We want people to know what major story events happen, and that's why we're embedding them in the card set. We want people to know. Like if someone dies or something important, crucial thing happens, we want to depict that because a lot of players are not reading every single story.
We've definitely learned to be very decisive about what is in set 1 and what is in set 2. Like Foreshadows over Innistrad, there was a very brief conversation that should the last card in the set, which is kind of meaningless, show Emrakul rising, right? And we decide nope, because as soon as the visual spoiler's released, all things simultaneously, so that just gets moved an entire 3 months later.
It's about Liliana. Does she care about the other members of the Gatewatch at all?
Liliana is a wonderfully complex character. One of the little bits that I put into her origin story for Magic Origins was a moment of hesitation before she gave up her soul, in effect, which let her tell herself that she was still okay. She has a very complicated relationship with Jace based on their history together. And I think it's pretty clear that she wants to not care at all about him, and she kind of does.
I know that sometimes when you guys are creating a world, you sort of build the world first and then create the mechanics after, and sometimes it's the opposite. And I was curious which process you used for Kaladesh.
It's usually not that simple either way, and Kaladesh in particular had a lot of back and forth. We weren't sure whether the energy mechanic was going to end up in the Kaladesh set. Really hoped it did because we were really excited about the ether sphere and the role of ether in this world.
Right, that's why you can't see it in Origins, right? You don't see any ether in Origins. We already knew we were going to Kaladesh for real, but we didn't know how firm that mechanic was. So we were like, well, it's not wrong. You just zoom the camera a little higher. It was just out of shot, if we do it.
What about the Etherborn makes them black?
So the Etherborn were a solution to a problem. We definitely wanted a world where undead and necromancy wouldn't really make sense. So this is kind of Black's greed and ambition twisted in a kind of a Kaladesh way. The Etherborn love luxury. They love partying for themselves. They love living their lives to the fullest, and in that way, they're seeking their own goals. It's an interesting twist. It's definitely more of a challenging version of a black-aligned race. But we thought that it was really hitting what Kaladesh needed and a cool twist on Black for this world.
When a new Etherborn comes into existence, an existing Etherborn will take that one into their care to pass on that wealth to the next generation, as it were.
doesn't that go against like the Etherborn's will of live life to the fullest? It's like when they die, shouldn't they have like no money to give away?
I do think that there's a gigantic party thrown right before the end. That's certainly true.
As I walked in here and I was looking around, I realized that the Paramount is like a very golden theater, and it kind of fits the theme of Kaladesh. Was that intentional, or did it just kind of fall into place perfectly?
A lot of the similarity is just because, like, at the base, what is remarkable about this theater is the amount of hand craftsmanship, right? It looks like someone loved every little piece of detailing in here. And Kaladesh, even though a lot of the shapes are different, that was very much the same thing. Like, someone has cared about every level of this place and done a great job making it beautiful. And so, unsurprisingly, they work together pretty well.
When we walked in here, I looked around and I was actually impressed that I think there is more filigree in this theater than there is in the art in the set. And I was like, we could have done more.
When there is a cultural or historical basis, is to take the patterning from the clothing and put it on the buildings, or take the mosaics from the floor and put it on the shields.
There's a great quality to these art directors in that they allow the artist's style to, I guess, sing on the card. They don't really, they don't tear it down. They use that as a feature, which is really nice.
It's not something you've seen before, but it's just right.
All right, welcome back to the Paramount Theatre. We are live. Rich Hagan alongside Ian Duke down there on the Paramount stage. The World Championship final is just a few minutes away. So why don't we set the scene for you? We've got our reporter Brian David Marshall out and about. We'll talk with him in just a few minutes. But Ian, let's set the stage, and we'll begin with our first player in the final from our first semi-final, and that is Brian Brown Doohan. Let's take a look at his career resume for you. There you see him, the 2015-16 Grand Prix Master. Seth Manfield so nearly stole this seat away from him at the very, very end of the last Grand Prix of the year in Sydney. BBD had to watch in the top 8 as Manfield advanced as far as the semi-finals, but BBD claimed the seat, and boy has he ever run with it. Gold Pro, 30,000 lifetime earnings, couple of Grand Prix titles, so no stranger to hardware, and he is your Grand Prix master and player number 1. Let's take a look at his path to this World Championship final. Ian, what stands out to you here?
Well, what stands out the most, Rich, is actually his constructed record here. If you can see the last 4 rounds on each of those days, on day 1 that was 4 rounds of standard, on day 2 that was 4 rounds of modern, and you can see BBD actually went completely undefeated in those 8 standard rounds with only a single intentional draw against Márcio Carvalho.
Right, so they decided they'd save it until the final, is basically what happened there. They knew that they would be in the final 4 by winning, by drawing in that round 13. So that's how BBD got here. Let's take a look at his deck. What has he brought to the party? Well, it is Bant, but it's not Bant Company as such. This is Bant Human. So what's going on with this deck here?
That's right. This is a variation on the traditional Bant Company shell. We're calling it Bant Humans because he's making some concessions to his creature base. And by concessions, I mean he's playing with some cards that are less individually powerful, but they have synergy with each other. Synergy, of course, referring to cards working together to be better than the sum of their parts. And some of the synergies here that I want to highlight are based around Thalia's Lieutenant, which is a card that gives all your human creatures +1/+1 counters when it enters the battlefield, and also receives +1/+1 counters itself from other human creatures entering the battlefield.
Well, why don't we look at a couple of key cards in this deck for BBD, and there is Thalia's Lieutenant, and Champion of the Parish was sort of where this began in a sense.
That's right. Champion of the Parish in the original Innistrad was a 1-mana 1/1 creature that got a +1/+1 counter whenever another human creature entered the battlefield under your control. So Thalia's Lieutenant has that ability, but also has the ability that when it enters the battlefield, it puts a +1/+1 counter on all of your other humans.
Really sweet. One more card to show you from BBD's deck. Here's Reflector Mage, which we've just seen be a standout card all weekend, and that is no surprise.
Absolutely. Reflector Mage, a mainstay in all of the Collected Company decks. This is what we call a tempo card. It sets your opponent on the back foot so you can leverage that time advantage and try to defeat them earlier. And Reflector Mage is especially strong in BBD's version of this deck because it is also a human, so it receives some of those other bonuses from Thalia's Lieutenant.
Well, we've got some humans down on the floor of the Paramount Theatre waiting for us right now, some fans of BBD. Brian David Marshall, who have you got?
I'm here with Team BBD, led by Brad Nelson, former Player of the Year. This is the team, the people that have been cheering for Brian Brown doing here. Brad, what is this matchup like between Bant Humans and Bant Company?
All right, so in the first 2 games before sideboarding, Bant Humans is going to be trying to be very aggressive. Getting on the board, Thalia's Lieutenant and Thalia can put Bant Company in a really bad position. After sideboard, you're going to see Tragic Arrogance playing a role from both sides. And it's going to be a bigger slugfest after sideboard. But game 1 is where BBD is very advantaged, which is why I think he's favored.
Now, you've been working with Brian for a long time. What would it mean to see your teammate get the title of World Championship here?
Well, I've done it once before, and a second time would be great. And just seeing him this year, I mean, he went into this season an underdog, grinded all year at all these Grand Prix, was at the bottom of the top list getting there, and he just played 4 or 5 at the end of the season, finally accomplished it, and now he's in the final. So I think it's much deserved from someone that grinded for so many years from the bottom.
So we've had jerseys, we've had stadium entrance announcements. Can we get a little bit of a chant going here?
BBD, BBD, BBD.
All right, so that's it here for Team BBD down on the floor.
And in the background there, you got Reed, Duke, and Owen Turnwell going, no, 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 no. No, I'm just going to sit here. Thank you. Thanks, Brad. All right, so that's BBD. But it takes 2 to make a final. The other World Championship finalist, he's just getting his breath back. He's done from semi-final 2. He is Márcio Carvalho of Portugal. Let's take a look at his resume. 30 years old, and by far the most important thing on this resume is that both he and BBD are gold pros. 22 of the 24 players were platinum. 2 of them were gold. The 2 gold pros meet in the final. The winner goes platinum.
Yeah, in some sense, you could say these are 2 of the underdogs in the event actually making it all the way to the finals, which is really, really impressive and exciting for me personally.
Yeah, just fantastic stuff. Now, how did he get here? Well, the draft master came in and he demonstrated his draft prowess. Win, win, win in limited rounds 1, 2, 3. Win, win rounds 8 and 9 in draft. Only JC Tao was able to best him, and that prevented Márcio from going on an 18-0 win streak at pro level and above, pro tour level and above. Constructed, bit of a different story, bit more checkered in. We see a loss to Mike Sigrist in round 5 in standard, but still, I mean, that's still 3-1, but then in modern, just sort of crept across the line, lose to Shota, the intentional draw with BBD, loss in the last round to Oliver Tiu. I think Márcio will be pleased that he managed to get past Oliver, of course, and here he is in the final. So what about his deck? Let's take a look at Márcio's deck for you. It is Bant once again. This time it is Bant Company, Ian.
That's right. This is a much more traditional Bant Company list than Brian Branduin's, but there are a couple interesting innovations here. We do see Márcio going a little bit bigger than his opponent here in the finals, having cards like Archangel Avacyn and Elder Deepfiend standing out at the top of his curve, as well as a couple copies of Noose Constrictor as a sort of innovative addition to this deck.
Now, the Elder Deepfiend and Archangel Avacyn don't necessarily work that well with Collected Company. Let's take a look at one of the signature cards from Márcio's deck. It is Collected Company, synonymous with the deck. I think probably the single most powerful card in Standard.
I totally agree, Rich. This has been the dominant card in Standard for quite some time here. Very powerful core of this deck. Lets you sort of cheat 2 creatures onto the battlefield as long as they have converted mana cost 3 or less. It's instant speed, so you can ambush your opponent in combat or bring out a Spell Queller in response to a key spell. Just an extremely versatile and powerful card that provides card advantage as well.
Let's take a look at one more card that we may well see in action in Márcio's deck as we go through the course of the final. It looks like a 2-3 for 2. That's already great news. But as we've seen, Ian, these games can be super grindy. So that's 6 land. That seems to happen very early in games sometimes. And from then on, it's just 4/5s all the way.
Yeah, that definitely can turn on very early in the game. And what's absolutely fantastic about Sylvan Advocate is it's just a rock-solid 2-drop that is good at any point in the game. It's fantastic on turn 2. It gets even better later in the game. It's great to find off of Collected Company. And also it provides you some additional value in making your Lumbering Falls land creatures larger.
Well, Brian David Marshall, I know you're downstairs and I know you found some fans of Márcio Carvalho gearing up for the final. Who are you with?
Thanks, Rich. I'm here with Team Márcio. It's a little bit of a smaller crowd, but they're going to make up for it with passion. Willie Adel, Paolo Vitor Damarosa, and Thiago Saporito. Willie Adel, you've been a staunch supporter of Márcio Carvalho throughout this tournament. What is going to let Márcio become the Magic the Gathering World Champion? What's his advantage here?
I think he's just the best player. Like, I expect him the best player in the whole pack. And he proved that he doesn't play only like limited. He's pretty good in constructed formats as well. He has a pretty good deck that Bolova builds like during the whole, like the last 2 weeks. And I'm pretty confident, and he has like by far the best like supporters, the best and the louder supporters here. So I don't expect him to lose at all.
What's the difference between the Bant Company decks and the Bant Human decks? What are we going to expect to see to know that Bant Company is winning here?
Honestly speaking, I have no idea because I don't play these kind of cards. Like I don't play Dromoka's Commando or Collective Company. I play like good like black-green cards.
I'm sorry. Let me redo that question. Thiago Saporito. What is it going to look like if Márcio is winning this match between Bant Company and Bant Humans? What can we expect to see on the board?
Well, we have to expect that BBD doesn't draw the Titus Lieutenant. But otherwise, I think Márcio is favored because he has Spell Quellers. He has Shoot Trash Carry against on sideboard. So I think it's a good matchup. He can do it.
Okay, Hall of Famer Paolo Vitor Damarosa lending his support silently here, but you know we got a little bit of a chant out of the other side of the room. We got to get a little bit of Team Márcio cheer here from you guys.
Let's go, 1, 2, 3. Márcio! Márcio! Let's go, Márcio! Vai, caralho!
There you have it, sending it back up enthusiastically to you, Rich Hagon.
Yeah, they really, really mean it, don't they? Oh boy. It's time, boys and girls. Thanks for being part of this incredible Magic experience, but now it comes down to the best 3 out of 5. The tension is palpable. It's time for the World Championship Final. Will it be Brian Brown-Duin or will it be Márcio Carvalho? Buckle up, Worlds 2016 is about to crown a champion.